Well, hey everybody, welcome back to Cruising with the Carsons. Greetings and salutations, everybody. You know the drill. A couple people asked me, why do you do that? I said, why not? It's cool. Try it again. Greetings and salutations, everybody. See? It's kind of addictive, isn't it? Anyway, here's what we're coming at you with today. Quality, RV quality. Is it a thing of the past, or are there still some RVs out there that uphold and maintain the highest of standards for their quality? Well, to answer that question, in my experience, if I was to say what I think are some of the very best top of the food chain, I would have to say the Forest River Riverstone is a very well-built unit. They don't have frame problems and a bunch of other things. I know for the 2025 models, they started using I believe, a fiberglass roof on their new models, which is very cool, getting away from that rubber roofing compound. DRV Mobile Suites, another excellent company, good quality. Another one that not a lot of people know about, Northwoods RV. They actually manufacture their own frames. Excellent quality. As for the rest, So I'm going to show you a buddy of mine who's an RV transporter just hauled a brand new 2025 Montana 377 to a dealership. And on one of his stops, he decided to climb up and take a picture of the roof on this unit. Now, this is a brand new Montana, not even used yet, on its way to a dealership from the manufacturer. So I'm going to cut to photo number 1. Now take a look at this, guys. Take a look at this roof vent. Now, do you see all the ripples in the TPO membrane? That's the rubber roofing. And look at how, when they laid down the Dicor, it laid right over all those bubbles and ripples. So obviously they knew they were there. Now, what kind of problems might this pose down the road? Now, the manufacturers are going to tell you that this is normal. The gas hasn't escaped yet from the glue, etc., etc., etc. Same song, same dance. There are numerous posts out there on social media, whether it's YouTube or Facebook, of people asking, is this normal? Is this normal? Well, let me tell you something, guys. Like my camper behind me, when you go down the road, you get a natural amount of airflow, okay? Nothing is 100% airtight. So when you travel, you've got air going over the top of your camper, like you can see on mine. Air goes over the top of the camper, right? Well, that's going to roll right over all those ripples and bubbles and imperfections. So your TPO membrane, or your EPDM membrane, or your rubber roofing is going to flutter. When wind goes over that, it's just like when you stick your hand out a windshield when you have a beautiful 75-degree day and you're cruising down the highway and you can feel the wind just fluttering on your hand. It's the same principle. It's going to flow over that roof, and it's going to make those imperfections flutter like this. And what that's going to do is it's going to eventually work some of that glue loose underneath on top of the substrate or your roof deck. It's going to work some of that loose. And on mine, like I showed you on some of those seams, where you have a plywood seam that sticks up over the other one, it creates a valley, right? As you saw on mine, I've got a valley that's about 2 feet long right in front of one of the solar panels. And water sits in there. Well, depending on which way that seam faces, air hits that. And on that very sharp edge, even though they have the equivalent of fiberglass sheetrock tape, we use this all the time in my industry, on walls that aren't subject to outdoor elements, fiberglass tape. Well, that doesn't do anything for really sealing up that seam or taking away the sharp edge of that OSB, oriented strand board, which is what your roof deck has on top of it. So eventually, that moves and flutters and air hits that and keeps pounding against it. That's going to eventually wear either a hole in it or it's going to wear a line all the way through the membrane. And all it's going to take is a little bit of water in there. And OSB, which is a chipboard product, when that stuff gets wet, it blows up and explodes. And before you know it, you got roof rot. Now let's cut to one of the other photos here. You see around this vent? Same thing. And I'm going to cut to one of the other photos that shows one of the seams from the factory. Now you see how everything's laying down nice and flat, but not on the seam. Why is that? Why can't they get that perfectly tight like the rest of the roof deck material and the way that it's laid down? These things are just problems that are waiting to happen. Now, this is just roofing things, okay? When you get into a lot of other things like how your wiper seals are, or your gaskets, or your weather strip, or cabinetry, or miter cuts, or what they use called MDF or lumber core material that are inside a lot of these campers, the quality issues, bad cuts, bad nailing. I can't tell you how many campers I've had that I went down the road only to find a couple pieces of trim laying on the ground or barely nailed on, or you see a lot of the wallpaper that's glued down to that Luan 1/4-inch plywood that they put on the interior walls is coming off or delaminating, or you can see glue starting to yellow coming through. And then you have crappy suspension parts, and then you have certain manufacturers that use PEX line onto flex line, onto rubber hose lines with crimp fittings, with hose clamps, with brass fittings, with plastic clamp. It just makes no sense, guys. It makes no sense. And there it all comes back to regulation and how these things are regulated, which is hardly anything. So am I trying to dissuade you from getting into the RV life? No, I'm not. I'm just saying that you have to be very, very hyper aware of quality issues, and you got to know what to look for. You've got to get that third-party inspection. That person, whether it's Blue Ox or whoever it may be where you live, you're going to have to Google and find out if there's anybody that can do an RV inspection, but you really need to have that inspection done because it goes so much further than just the things I mentioned. You have all the components that make up your camper, the refrigerator, the water heater, the furnace, your air conditioning. All those things need to be gone through to make sure that they're sealed up properly, that they're functioning properly, that there's not faulty wiring or defective electrical and things like that, because it happens. These things catch on fire. These things fall apart. It happens. You've got to be hyper aware of what's going on. So, I say to you, are there any really good, well-built RVs left out there? And if they are, where are they? Are they the three that I just mentioned to you? Well, as they say, you get what you pay for. That's very, very true, because we all know that Mobile Suites DRV, we all know that Riverstone, we all know that Northwoods RV, some pretty expensive units, but you get what you pay for. You take a camper like mine, kind of a entry-level, mid to mid-level, which I knew. We've been on the high end of the full residential models with some of our other campers. And it all comes down to how you take care of them and if you can be a do-it-yourselfer. And if you can't be a do-it-yourselfer, perhaps you shouldn't be in the RV life, or perhaps you should really learn how to be a do-it-yourselfer, because there's more maintenance on these things than there ever are on a vehicle, or there ever is on any vehicle that I've ever owned. I would have to say, if I had to put a mathematical equation on it, maybe you guys could leave me your feedback on this. What do you think would be a multiplier or a common denominator of how much service you have to do and perform on an RV? If I were to put a number on it, I would probably say 3 times more than any vehicle I've ever owned. You know, it's like being a homeowner. If you're a homeowner, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Constantly. There's always things to fix, always things to take care of. So, if you're going to shop for an RV, beware, be cautious, look for quality issues. If you find them, make the dealership fix them before you take it off that lot. Because once you take that camper off that lot, whoo-wee, that's when the problems begin. And that's when you might get left hanging. So be smart, do your diligence. Appreciate you coming back to the channel, you guys. We got some good stuff coming up for you regarding more undercover inspections. Oh yeah, it's coming. So hit that like and subscribe button, you guys. Appreciate you being here. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.